you all for joining us for dinner and for being here today. It looks like we got almost everyone here. That's kind of nice to see some new faces and familiar faces. I'll do introductions, and since Mr. Martinez stepped out of the room, how about we start on this side of the room?
Donna Stout, Hampton High School District Secretary Superintendent. Cheryl Silva, Assistant Superintendent of the District.
Bill Fishbaugh, Superintendent.
Carl Anderson, Board Trustee.
Danny Dodd, Board Trustee.
Art Brianna, Board Trustee.
Sandra Dawson, Trustee.
John Webster, Trustee.
Megan Pierce, Executive Assistant President's Office, College of the Sequoias.
Stan Carasosa, College of the Sequoias.
Lori Cardoza, board member, and my area that I serve is the Tulare, Corcoran, Pixley, Tipton area.
Ken Dudas, Board Trustee, and I serve the better part of Tulare, not really, and also up the foothills all the way up through Three Rivers.
Greg Sherman, trustee. I represent the majority of Vice-Side.
Johnson Wall, my district includes Hanford, Armada, Goshen, and Western Visalia.
Diana Garcia, and I'm the student trustee for COS.
Darrell Pyle, City of Hanford.
Gary Bennett, City of Hanford, Mayor.
Bill Sperry, Vice Mayor of Hanford.
Tim Arado, Fire Chief for Hanford.
City of Hanford, Jolene Chamberlain, Council.
Lou Martinez, Hanford City Council.
Okay, and let's go around the room. Start with you, Kristen, and we'll do.
Kristen Hall, Provost at the COS Hanford Center.
Tim Foster, Foundation Director for COS Foundation.
Matilda Serna, second grade student.
In Hanford. Jennifer Lacerna, Vice President of Academic Services, College of the Sequoias.
Kevin McCusker, Public Information and Marketing Coordinator for the College of the Sequoias.
Tim Bowers, Kings County Superintendent of Schools. Val Yosef, Director of Research at COS.
Brent Collins, Vice President of Student Services at COS.
And Christine Staten, I'm the Vice President of Administrative Services at COS.
And behind the camera.
Terry Gray, I'm
You don't want to leave.
cameraman.
Okay, we will start with public comment per our COS Board Policy 2350. Any person may address the board at this time, either on an agenda item or other matters of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker, with a maximum time of 15 minutes per item unless otherwise extended by the board. Do we have any public comments concerning items on the agenda? Seeing none, do we have any public comments concerning items not on the agenda? And I missed the flag salute, so could everybody please stand, and Diana, would you lead us in our pledge?
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first item of business is the Hanford Joint Union High School District Common Core update. Mr. Fishbaugh.
Thank you. Just briefly to update you on where we are with Common Core. Remember, the Common Core is career and college education and standards that are put in place in, I think, 45 states now or greater. And it's been a big change for us, as it is for all school districts, going from a standardized testing and a set of standards to a completely new set of standards. And so we've spent a lot of time updating our curriculum, particularly in the areas of English, language arts, and mathematics. One of the things that we have now in place for our seniors is our E4 class, which is the ERWC curriculum that focuses on expository writing that they'll use in college. The curriculum was developed by colleges to help prepare our students better. We've even on each campus piloted some of our classes that are all electronic. The students work on laptops, save their work in folders, teachers grade them electronically, get them back to them, hoping to prepare our students better for the college experience which they're going into. All of our English curriculum has been updated. Right now, since we haven't started the official testing time yet, we're still tweaking it a bit, but the curriculum has been developed and established in English. And well on the way as far as math goes. We've gone now to an integrated math, and we're starting with the younger grades and working them through the lower levels. And so we are hoping to have them better prepared. We're also fortunate in the fact that the articulation with our feeder districts are helping us in those areas that our 8th graders becoming 9th graders are also going to look at the same curriculum that we are, so that we get a bit of a head start. Not being a unified district is sometimes a bit of a challenge for us, and it's very beneficial that our feeder schools are participating in that. Probably the biggest challenge we have right now in preparing for this first round of testing, which basically this year is a test of the test. It's done online. The state's not quite sure, the county's not quite sure, and our district's not quite sure how that all is going to work out with putting that number of students online to take tests and how the infrastructure holds up. But we are prepared, as we think, as well as we can be for that. We've done some tests using a lot of data at one time to see if the system will hold up, and it has so far. But it's a relatively new experience for us to do all of our testing online. And we're still waiting for the state to tell us. In high school, it's only the 11th graders that are tested, and the state has not determined this first sample test whether we will be testing in English or math or both, and to what level. So we're waiting for that direction, and in March we will begin that testing window and see how it goes. The first year, they're not reporting the scores of the students. I believe they're basically developing a baseline to see where we're at. Historically, in other states that are ahead of us, what they found is the initial years of this testing, schools have struggled. Schools that traditionally were considered very successful under the old system are struggling a bit with this new system. There's a lot of hands-on, a lot of project-based type of knowledge. Which for some learners it'll be a benefit, but it will be a challenge knowing what the students need to prepare for in taking the test. But we feel very comfortable with the fact that we've been proactive in preparing, adopting the new Common Core standards, working towards this, and we're confident that we are ready to begin this test period and see how it works out.
I have a question. Resource-wise, has Common Core posed a challenge in terms of what does it cost you, right? Has curriculum had to be updated?
Curriculum had to be updated, and there's not textbooks out currently. We're changing our math textbook or math adoption to one that fits more in the integrated math, because that's a change from what we've done before. Our ERWC curriculum, our English 4 curriculum, is basically one that's handed down from the college system. And so that one's a little easier, but the ones below that we've had to redevelop, and we're using a lot of that expository writing in those grade levels as well. In addition, again, preparing our students for a computer-based test, we're putting them on computers, which, you know, in education, traditionally that's a difficult system to get all kids on uniform technology. So I believe we have, each campus has one class that's like I said, completely electronic. They work off of Nova,
Lenovo Chromebooks.
And they have a 54-inch TV in the classroom which they work off of. And again, the teacher takes and grades it electronically. And that's been very new for kids and much more of a challenge than we thought it would be. It's very different for them to do that. But it is costly for us to make all of these changes.
There is a funding stream though attached to it. So, and they are telling you more or less of that funding stream, how much you're supposed to spend in what area. So professional development is a big area, and so is technology.
I was going to say, they can't just expect you to get that done in a certain amount of time, and it sounds like it is going to cost a substantial amount to get it fully implemented, I guess. Is what it seems.
We're very fortunate in Kings County. I think we're advanced as far as technology goes here and being prepared for it. Much more prepared, I think, than other areas in the state. So it'll be interesting to see when the testing actually comes. It'll probably be a very good indication how well we hold up to that and see what others in the state will.
So you're more excited than you are apprehensive about it?
You know,
Maybe
ultimately,
that's not a fair question.
ultimately, I think it's a good change, mainly because I like the fact that we've always kept the emphasis on career education here. We're fortunate enough not to do away with our CTE classes, all the voc ed classes, and so it's a little bit easier transition as far as that goes for us. We're also excited about the fact that there's some money out there for career education, linked learning. We're getting involved in some of those grants as well. So it is an exciting time. It's a challenging time, but it's exciting to see that I personally am not fond of a test-based curriculum. I think that's what we got to was basically performing on a test is how you valued the education process, and I think that's a good way to evaluate a diverse population.
Any other questions?
I just had a quick question, Bill, on the staff development. What's going to Common Core and more project-based, hands-on, interactive engagement strategies? How's the staff development shaping up for kind of our core content areas? You know, our English teachers, our social science teachers. What's that looking like?
We've done a number of things to, I guess the best way is to work on student engagement, because that's the biggest component is student engagement. So our focus has been on, in a couple of areas that deal specifically with student engagement, how to engage students, what are some strategies to do that. We do a lot of peer observation when it comes to that, and discussion and focus groups on that as far as, and I think staff begins to recognize more what engagement truly is for kids and to help meet this challenge we've got ahead of us.
Any other questions?
So Neil, did you have to upgrade a lot of your computer systems in order to accommodate the software, or were you able to handle the software on what you had?
Well, since Cheryl takes care of technology, which is a big growth area for all of us.
We actually haven't, the software hasn't been loaded yet, they haven't released it yet, so, but we are, not all the labs that we currently have will we be able to test in. But when you look at the fact that you're testing 11th graders and you start doing the math, and you have a long window, like 16 weeks, we don't want to take the window that we have to test. We feel that we can do it in about 6 days, and that's makeups and everything. And so we're pinpointing which labs are ready, the highest level, will be able to handle the software. There's some components in there with needing to have earphone jacks, and not all of our computers currently, if they do have them, they're not operational. And so these Lenovo Chromebooks that we've tried in the E4 classes are we're actually piloting them too also for the testing. And the nice thing about the Chromebook is it's about a third of the cost of a desktop. So we're getting the Chromebooks in the classroom with warranties and everything for about $400 a piece.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our Hanford City Council, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Kyle.
Thank you, good evening. We come bearing gifts, should be willing to accept it. We've got a picture of what we would propose to deliver to the College of Sequoias to support the fire training, the fire academy. And you can see from the description, it's a 1990 engine, and bought brand new by the city of Hanford back in the day. And with the water supply we have running through an apparatus like that, 24 years of service is a long time in service for a frontline fire response vehicle. City Council in the previous budget year authorized the acquisition of 2 brand new fire engines to replace this one and one that may be in a little rougher shape. If we were to go surplus that, we think it's worth about $2,500 in auction. The Air District would not be happy with us selling it. It doesn't meet any of the current standards from the Air District's perspective. But it is operational, it is functional, and probably right up until last month, it was providing frontline fire service in the city of Hanford. And we thought it might provide an excellent opportunity in a training capacity
for future firefighters that may provide service to all of us at some point in the very near future. Brought with us our fire chief, who can tell you probably every nut and bolt on that particular vehicle and all of its capabilities and what it would be like potentially as a training tool here at the College of Sequoias. Chief, you can shed a little light on that for us?
It is a 1990 Westate. It has a lot of emergency miles on it. Not fit for first line service, but definitely a great fit for the fire academy, which is based out of this facility here. We can train firefighters in the method of loading hose, deploying hose, advancing hose lines, pumping with it. It has a 1,250 gallon per minute pump on it, so they'll learn how to pump with the actual engine itself. Instead of reading it out of the book, we'll be able to get out there and touch the unit, make water, hook up to a hydrant, pump water out of it at appropriate pressures. So we think it'd be a great fit for the College of Sequoias, and we'd like to train it to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I can talk all night on fire stuff.
I just want to defer to our Hanford campus provost, Dr. Holloway. I know Kristen's been working with the lead administrative staff in our fire division, and I know she's communicated with them and done some research. Do you want to share, Kristen, the research you've done so our board can hear our assessment of this opportunity?
When I talked to John Ladiansky, who's our fire coordinator, who's worked closely with both Tim and others, this has a working pump, which our current fire engine does not. So what we would do, the city of Tulare gave us an engine about 3 years ago, and we ended up swapping it out because it was better than what we had. So this would allow our students to be able to do some things that we can't do right now with the engine that we have. And then we would surplus that, the current one, out like we did before.
I guess my question would be, why wouldn't we want it? Is there something we don't know why we wouldn't want it?
No, generally, Greg, the things that we want to take a look at is what will be our primary use. It's intended for training, so we wouldn't be required necessarily to have it emergency response ready, licensed, insured. In other words, we're not going to put it out on the road. Typically, you're going to look at it in terms of what's the cost to maintain it. But like Kristen said, we got one donated, and we're able to upgrade it by trading out with the Tulare donation. Now we're going to be able to upgrade by trading it out with this donation. So we would, we're excited about the opportunity to accept. I think it provides a great training tool for our facility and gives us a chance to upgrade. I just wanted to make sure we heard from Kristen and the work that she did with our fire staff and their recommendation to our board. We don't have it agendized tonight, so the city council will be able to take action to make the donation. We'll agendize it on our next meeting to take action for receipt.
My other question is you told us we're worth 2,500. You should have told us we're worth 25,000. We wouldn't have known that.
Actually, it's 30,000.
Mr. Mayor, so we can take action on this evening. It was agendized for your action, so a motion in a second to make that donation to College of the Sequoias prevents us from having to go through the surplus process.
Okay, so in that case, then, council, what would be your wishes?
I'd like to make a motion that we donate to the COS campus for training vehicle.
So I have a motion from Councilwoman Jillian Jameson.
Second.
I have a second from Lou Martinez. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Madam President,
Since I'm from Hanford, I'll speak. The issue is your generosity is why this program is successful. This college is not going to go anywhere without support of the high school and without support of the city. This fire academy is important in Bow Valley, and when the various cities that are in our district do things like this, that's why we can make things work. Thank you.
from the city manager's perspective, if you just let BC Ganaski know that City of Hanford just validated the city of Tulare on this one.
How do you really feel?
I'm just wondering if I saw you.
Absolutely. Two more quick updates.
Sure,
if we have
sure,
time.
Mr. Bob.
With some participation potentially tomorrow morning from Mr. Fishbaugh and our Hanford Provost, we have an opportunity to do a joint phone call with Angie over at CART to site a new bus shelter for student transportation somewhere between the two campuses. Angie just wants to know how big we want it and where we think the best spot would be between the two campuses. She can tell us where the current bus stops. Can't go on the west side of the street. It's not a paved shoulder. We would have ADA compliance issues, and obviously we don't want the students crossing 13th Avenue, but currently the bus, I think, may pull into the high school site in the turnout. So if you two might be available tomorrow morning, maybe 8:30, we can initiate a conference call with Angie, and we can get you a bus shelter for all the high school students and college students that take advantage of public transit, if that's acceptable.
We can certainly make that time work. Kristen will be available to follow up for all of you. One of the really good things about this little project is once each semester, we do a meet and greet at the college at all three of our campuses. We go over the president, the vice presidents, associated student body, or our student senate provides free donuts, coffee, and juice. And students walk by and we just greet them. And we say hello, we introduce ourselves. We give the students on campus a chance to meet their senior administrators. And we were here at the start of this semester a few weeks ago doing our meet and greet right here in the hallway. And we had a student come into us, happened to be a student who needed some handicap access. And it was the few days this month we had rain. And they were talking to us about how difficult it was to be dropped off out there and be waiting and not have anywhere to be under shelter. And said, you know, and if it isn't raining, which we haven't had much, then it's really warm out there in the sun in the summer. So we just started talking about it, and I told Kristen, I said, you know, in my past experience, this might be something we can do together with either the district or the city, because I know that there's safe routes to school grants and some other things. So the conversation started, and as it turned out, City Manager Pyle had an answer. He had a vehicle to get the bus shelter up and out there relatively quickly. So it's going to be great for our students, because next time we're here handing out donuts, there's going to be a mob of them asking for stuff. Because now they're going to hear we went and asked for a bus stop, we got it.
And the fireman asked for a fire truck.
So thank you very much.
Madam President, one more update. Mr. Fishbaugh and I, a couple of the board members and some staff members on the building maintenance side were invited to go look at a method that's new here in the San Joaquin Valley of delivering competition-sized swimming pool. And we know that in the master plan over at the Sierra Pacific High School campus, there's a blue square on the map that at some point there is to be a swimming pool. And the product is known as a Murpha pool. It's a stainless steel, Olympic-sized 50-meter pool that you put together like an erector set. And we were invited to go out and take a peek at this thing in mid-construction. And absolutely fascinating to watch the process. And it is as erector set looking from the outside as you might imagine. On the inside, it's going to look like a regular pool with a much better warranty than any concrete pool any of us have ever built. And the company that manufactures this pool was asked to build two 50-meter Olympic pools for our last Summer Olympics trials. They built them indoors and had two 50-meter pools up and running in 10 days. And then after the event, they took them down and took them away. And it just absolutely mind-boggling to watch this in process. But it definitely got our wheels spinning. We know that there's a blue spot on the map that says the pool's supposed to go there someday. And we at least wanted to share with you the information that we gathered from our field trip. City of Reedley, Reedley College, and the Reedley School District, all of their pools were taken out of service within a year of each other, and the city was left without a pool. So they came together jointly and built what will be an amazing complex when they're done between all three of those institutions. And they went through the RFP process, evaluated construction cost and life cycle costs, and they selected the Murpha pool process. And something to see. I think the next time we go up there, it'll be full of water because it's moving pretty quickly.
It went very quickly. It was, and one of the pools the gentleman said they had one corner of it completed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon the previous day, and 3/4 of it was completed by the time we got there at 10 o'clock the next day. Pretty amazing. Just a little history, as many of you are probably aware, we have The other, Hanford High and Hanford West, have pools on their facilities. Neither one of them are, well, both of them are outdated, and neither one are compliant with CIF regulations. The last 2 years, we've been fortunate enough to have Valley Championship in water polo, and both times we had to go out of town to play the championship game as the host school because we didn't have a facility that was able to provide that according to CIF regulations. So our goal obviously is to have at some point a pool that is competitive, that we can host tournaments, host CIF swim and water polo meets, and so we're hoping that we're looking at all options we possibly can to have that in place.
What are the estimated costs?
The pool, they said construction costs through the RFP that the school district, the college, and the city went through, just slightly more than actual good old-fashioned gunite concrete construction. On top of the pools themselves, they built classroom space, snack bar, restrooms, shower facilities. Their sticker price on the main pool, a warm-up pool, and all the classrooms was a little over $7 million. Substantially more than we think we would add because the way Sierra Pacific was designed, it's got the locker rooms and shower and restroom facilities already built.
In essence, what we need on that facility is a hole in the ground and a place to put the pool equipment, the pump and whatever. Other than that, the facilities, restroom, locker room, showers are all available in the gym and have access from that side of the building in there.
Are you thinking about any seating, Bill, or lighting or concessions?
We are. We'd have to have, probably not so much concessions because we have a concession stand that's around the corner that's accessible. We would probably look at some form of lighting, and obviously as part of the thing that CIF looks at is not only the pool size, but deck size and also seating for spectators. So we'd have to make sure all of those components were in place. A little bit of an advantage is the fact that the location, I think, is we can put seating facing the west, which is normally not ideal because of, normally games are in the afternoon, but with the gymnasium there and the low sun would act as a block for some of that. So we have some advantages we see that way. But when we put one in, it will be one that will be able to host any CIF meet. And one of the neat elements with this pool is you can create partitions. Really decided to do 2 pools because they wanted to keep temperatures separate in the 2 and do something. But if you made it a large pool, you can have basically partitions that come out. So you could divide the pool with partitions. So basically a bridge that goes across that you could hold swim meets and you could hold multiple water polo games and do that in the same swim complex. So there's a lot of advantages that we see with the stainless steel.
And Bill, you may be more familiar with one of the items they mentioned, the fact that this pool process is got such a warranty on it, it made it eligible for some state bond funds where other pool construction may not have qualified for state bond funds in years past.
They were mentioning something like that, and I don't recall exactly how that system works. I know that Ms. Creech, who was our business director, was there. And
I think the reference was you can't use bond money on anything that won't last as long as it takes you to pay off the bond. Yeah. And since these have a 15-year warranty, their life expectancy is so long that it qualifies for some bond money since it will still be around the warranty. Right?
And I believe with these, they were talking about extending the warranty beyond that because the company's been in business, this particular one, since the early 60s in Europe. And so I think they have a number of pools that are still up and running after a large period of time. But it was very interesting. You basically dig out 4 feet wider around the entire perimeter of the pool so the workers can attach it to the one slab of concrete that's on the bottom, and it is really an erector set. You put in panel by panel, and you just attach each panel to a rail that you've anchored onto the asphalt, the cement, and put up one panel at a time and anchor it down. And then they use PVC, rolled out PVC and liquid PVC to seal all the areas.
Does it look, can you tell, looking at it once it's complete, is there a big difference from a traditional pool?
From the inside, they said the feel on the bottom feels very similar. You can put tile lane markers on it, glue them right to the side. And the seams, that liquid PVC, it kind of melts it all into one solid surface at the ends, and so once it's full of water, nobody inside the pool will know what's right on the other side.
Yeah, you probably think, because if you watch any sort of swimming or the Olympics on TV, it looks very similar to those types of pools, so you probably wouldn't know otherwise, because that's what you're used to seeing in competitive type of pools.
So do you guys have a time frame or a?
As soon as Daryl gives me a lot of money. Well, I figured we were on a roll with a fire truck, and I think I was kind of hoping we just roll this all in. Yeah.
And some students over when we have donuts and have
Great swim, Rob. But
we would keep us involved in the discussion and in the conversation. It's something we would love to know more about and continue to be connected with you guys as you develop the ideas. That'd be great.
Where's the site, where they're putting it? At the Lee High School?
they are putting it out, I'm trying to think what road that is.
It's right next to the district office. If you're standing in Wrigley High School's football field looking north, you'll see the classrooms coming up.
And I think that's why with their structure, they had to include a classroom and some other things, because it's really a bit of ways from the campus itself. They don't butt up against the locker room or anything else. It's out by the baseball fields and football fields.
Any more questions on the pool? That was an exciting conversation. Okay, all done, Mr. Pyle?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will move on to our College of Sequoias reports, and we'll start out first with Mr. Carrizosa and our accreditation update.
Okay, well, we'll give you a quick update. We have a few slides to talk you through the summary of our accreditation response period, but the punchline is we learned in the first week of February, on February 7th, actually on the 9th when we received our letter, and the 10th when it was confirmed that we've been removed from show cause. So that's a really good news item for College of the Sequoias. It was an intense year of really hard work. Our faculty did incredible work to come together and really address all of the issues. If you remember back when we were placed on show cause, there were, I think, 7 recommendations and a total of 42 different standards that we had to respond to. And we were able to successfully respond to all of them. And so there was a fair amount of excitement about the fact that we got so much done in a short period of time. And I'll give you just a quick look at what all was involved, and it's very summary-like at this point. But we adopted a theme. We adopted a contemporary metaphor because we really are changing the culture at College of the Sequoias. And so just like you have your iPhone 5S or your Microsoft Outlook Windows 11, we have COS version 2.0, and we used this as a way to get people to kind of internalize the whole idea that we are a very good institution, but in a lot of ways we needed to upgrade and update and improve our procedures and our processes. This doesn't look like anything really fancy, and that's it. The long and short of it is that's the beauty of this. It's a participatory governance structure, and it addresses a number of the recommendations and standards that we were deficient in. And its simplicity is really what is special about it. Because at College of the Sequoias, over the past decades and generations of decision making, there had been a much more elaborate and crowded and maybe even sometimes convoluted decision-making structure and communication structure that really wasn't functioning at as high a level as it needed to. And so this shows you a really simple breakdown between the decision-making bodies on the campus, and in that middle row horizontally where you see District Governance Senate, Academic Senate, and Student Senate, those now have been clearly defined as the governance recommendation bodies on the campus. We have specific committees with purposes and roles and responsibilities. And then we have a way of evaluating this at the end of every year to make sure that decision-making works successfully, and if not, we revise it and we continue to improve it. So it's made things more clear and much simpler, and in many ways easier to understand and more efficient. The next thing we put in place that addressed really the remainder of the standards and recommendations we had to address was an integrated planning model. And even though we've been a really good and strong institution, what the visiting team couldn't see when they came is they couldn't go to one manual or one book and see how does the college plan. We had a mission statement and we had a master plan, but how does that master plan drive a strategic plan? And in that strategic plan, how does that affect your annual operations? And how do your resources get prioritized around that? And then how do you measure it? And at the end of the year, how do you report on it? So you can see that blue circle is really intended to be the simplest of all designs for continuing ongoing improvement. And now we clearly have our mission statement, and we're in the process of updating our master plan. We did an annual review of our mission statement last year, and we'll do that again in September through December of this year. We're in the process of writing the next generation of the college's 10-year master plan. This one is good through 2015, and so from 2015 to 2025, we're currently in the process of writing that next plan. We've now got a strategic plan in place that has specific objectives. There's 8 of them that we work toward for this year, and those objectives are the ones that we're going to be measuring at the end of this year, and they connect to that master plan. One of the things we did in the fall that we were required to do is we initiated what's called a dialogue day, and the SLO and the SA row right there are student learning outcomes and service area outcomes. And so we've had to actually codify and document what we intend to do in our courses and in our departments, specific actions that we're working to try to achieve to meet those district objectives. And we have to take some time to stop and talk about them. We have to measure them. We have to adjust either our teaching or our services, and then go at it again and try to measure them to have ongoing continuous improvement. That institutional program review block is the place where we do our annual review of all of our programs, and we implemented a new process for that, and it's streamlined, and it will be in full operation for this year, and all of those new program reviews will be submitted by October of the coming fall semester. And then we have our resource allocation, which is intended to be driven by those things. You set your district objectives, you put your plans in place for the year, and then you allocate your resources accordingly. We have a process we call above base funding, so that any district, department, or division who is implementing something that needs additional resources, they have to go through a justification process to receive those resources. Then we implement, and we check it mid-year. We held our convocation in January, and we did kind of a mid-year checkup of where we are in all of these processes. We begin now to build our budget assumptions, much like you do in K-12 for the coming year. We start with the January governor's budget and wait for the May revise and start to build from there. We'll do another dialogue day this spring so that we're checking our student learning outcomes and our service area outcomes again. And then we start evaluating this whole process. And what was good, what wasn't good, what needs to be revised, what needs to be sharpened. And then we compile the information for our annual report, and we present that report to the board in September, the fall of next year, for this year just concluding. And the reason I took you on a quick trip around the circle is when we received our accreditation removal from Show Cause, we did still have a temporary warning label attached to us. And the only reason that the commission required that we remain on a warning at this point is because they haven't had time to see us complete the cycle. When they were here in November, and that's back when we were still working on above base funding and our annual program reviews. What they said is, we want to see you complete this process now. We want to see you go all the way to the end and complete your annual report, and then you submit that to us in October, and your accreditation process will be final. So we feel really good about that. So a couple of quick updates on the Hanford Educational Center, and Dr. Hollabaugh is going to talk a little bit more about some specifics when she gets the opportunity here. But we wanted you to know, I remember a little over 18 months ago now for me when I first got back to the Valley, and we had our first meeting in the summer, and we happened to be over at the cafeteria here at the high school, and our board members were expressing concern and interest about the fact that we needed to really make good on getting more resources out here to the Hanford Educational Center for COS. And so we wanted to give you a quick update of where we are on that. The accreditation process helped us, but you need to know even before accreditation, it was a high priority for this board and for myself to be able to do that. So we've got an opportunity now for students to come to the Hanford Center and complete the majority of all the requirements for transfer to a four-year college or program. We've got expanded online education options here. We increased services in key areas like security, student support services, financial aid, library services that Kristen's going to talk about, tutorial services in our math lab and our writing center. The industrial maintenance program is a big deal. I know that that was a partnership we had with the city. There was a beautiful building built here for the purpose of COS being able to provide industrial maintenance education here and certification. And we hadn't, up until this last year, even staffed it with a full-time instructor. Now it's staffed with a full-time instructor. It started out as an interim position. It had to go through our priority process within the college. It's moved its way now to a permanent position, and we're filling it with a permanent employee. So we're going to have our own full-time industrial maintenance program here in that really beautiful facility. And then, of course, we continue to be very proud of the police academy, our fire academy. And then the last thing we're working hard on is we're kind of jumping back on the front burner now, the center status for the Hanford Educational Campus. It's a legal designation we get from the Chancellor's Office when you've invested enough resources for your college campus to be self-contained and you have enough enrollment there to sustain itself. When you get those two things in place and you earn center status from the Chancellor's Office, there's a state-funded financial incentive that comes with it. So we're going to get more funding when we complete our center status, and we're going to try to make that our goal to do in 2015. And then just some additional actions we have planned district-wide. Hanford campus is one of 3 campuses now, but you can see that our goal is to really work hard and elevate our academic profile across the district. You know that we reinstituted summer school last year. We're bringing it back again this year. We continue to look at new and varied models. So it's in some cases a traditional summer school and in some cases non-traditional. This year though, the good news is it's double the size that it was a year ago. There will be summer school on Visalia campus, Hanford campus, and Tulare campus. There are going to be multiple sessions, so students can take one or more of those summer sessions. So we've expanded those offerings because summer is a really big time for our students to either accelerate or to catch up. Again, new models are evolving now for online education. We have a grant project that we're in the middle of, which is called the College of the Sequoias Pathway to Law School Initiative, and we're a finalist in a competitive process for a funding project that will allow us to build our paralegal program into a feeder program for students to transfer out of their 2-year community college education right into a 4-year college, which will complete a law school program with them and basically guarantee their admission into law school. We're going to be initiating, or we're working now to initiate a President Scholars Program, which is a way to try to recruit and attract some of our top high school kids to invest their first 2 years at College of the Sequoias by providing them tuition-based scholarships, book stipends, laptop computers, priority registration, just rolling out the red carpet for some of our top local high school students to be part of a President Scholars Program if they agree to do their first 2 years here. We're doing some special things to target our high school recruitment. We know we have to do a better job at that. We've scheduled this spring to go out, either myself or the vice presidents are personally visiting every faculty at every high school in our feeder district. We're taking out our information cards. We're sharing with them new things that are changing at College of the Sequoias. We're making sure that they are aware that we've been successful in our accreditation. And we're trying to roll out the red carpet a little bit and make sure they realize how important it is that they support our students coming to College of the Sequoias. I'm also going out to see each school board personally and make a presentation. I'm scheduled to be at the Hanford Joint Union High School Board meeting on April the 8th, and we'll be doing a presentation of the status of all of the Hanford High School students that are currently enrolled at COS and how they're progressing in our system. What courses they're in, how they're matriculating, what they're majoring in. We'll be giving a status update on all of that. We're working closely with our regional feeder districts on an adult education partnership. New money's coming from the state budget for K-12 adult schools to partner with community colleges and reinvent themselves a little bit. The general idea is to try to eliminate redundancy. Let's not be teaching some of the same things in adult school that we're teaching in community college. I think the state budget doesn't want to pay twice for some of that stuff anymore. They'd like us to get ourselves together and figure out who's going to do what and how those programs can support each other. So we have Hanford Joint Union High School in our consortium. We're preparing to submit our grant. We should get about a $250,000 planning grant. And next year we'll be able to do all the planning for implementation the following year, which would be 15-16. And then finally, we're part of the innovations in agriculture Fresno State University Commission that Dr. Castro has commissioned, and we're very excited about all the research that they're doing and all the work that they're doing. We're going to piggyback on that and try to make some well-informed decisions to elevate our ag program at College of the Sequoias to align with that. So that's a quick overview of COS 2.0. We're data-driven, we're built around student success. We want clear, more decisive and better decisions, and we're locked into a cycle of consistent improvement, ongoing improvement. And before I wrap up my part, I just want to say that I very much appreciate the partnership we have with both the City of Hanford and the Hanford Joint Union High School District. We could not have had the accreditation response success that we did without you. We asked all of you to stand by us. We asked you to continue to encourage folks to support College of the Sequoias, and you did that. Bill's been great. I've come over to see him a couple times. He's given me access to talk to his counselors, to visit his faculty. He and I have had time to meet together. So that means a lot to us. And even though I'm incredibly proud of the COS faculty and our board and everything we did to respond to the accreditation, we couldn't have done it without the support of our community. So we're really glad that our hard work has paid off, and we're excited now about life after accreditation at COS.
Any questions? Yeah, we'll start over here with Mr. Kyle.
Two pieces. So increased student enrollment will help you gain center status. That's one of the criteria.
Yes.
Do the courses to become, or to graduate from the police academy or firefighters academy count towards that enrollment?
Yes.
Okay, so Bill said he would volunteer to take more classes to drive the fire trucks. Well,
Yeah, there you go.
Secondly, on the student learning outcomes,
Yes.
how do you measure that? Is it just test scores, or does somebody get to go in and talk to these students? I have no idea how you measure
Yeah,
that.
it's different at the college level. Remember, each college course is kind of the academic domain, if you will, of the professor, of the instructor. So we do have departments and divisions who have come up with a relatively common set. There's some variances, but a common set of student learning outcomes based on the courses and what the curriculum and the syllabi are for those courses. But the primary purpose of the student learning outcomes was to provide clarity in what the expectations were for the student learners. So number one, we had to have student learning outcomes written for every course, and we didn't before. We were close, but we didn't have them all. Now we have student learning outcomes written for every course. Then there had to be an assessment. The professors all had to design an assessment so that when they're teaching those outcomes, they can assess those outcomes and get that data back. Then when we have that dialogue day, Daryl, that's what they're doing. They're taking the results of their student feedback and they're talking about it. If the three of us were all teaching the same course, we're bringing our respective student data back and we're talking about what worked, what didn't, and how can we collaborate to improve instruction and learning. And we go back and we do it again. And so we've got the assessments done, we've got the SLOs done, and now we have a commitment to the faculty working on the data and looking at it and using it to inform improvement. That's really what we had to make sure we said we were going to do. And so it's a little different than trying to quantify the actual content because the courses vary.
I was just going to add to that, I'm sorry, if you want to see all of our outcomes for every course on our website, we have an outcomes and assessment page, and so you can go to each individual course and see exactly what they are actually.
Right. And in fact, when a student registers for a class now at COS, they can't finish registration until they clear through the link. They clicks on it and opens it to make sure that students know what those student learning outcomes are. And Diana can attest to that. Yes, sir.
How does the state fund the junior colleges?
We get what's called full-time equivalent student, or FTES units of funding. So like the K-12 districts get funding per ADA. And the more ADA you have, you'll take that increase in your ADA and you'll multiply it times your per pupil funding. We're a little bit different. We get a funding unit, a cost per unit, but we can have 2,000 students or we can have 10,000 students. What the state does is they take the total enrollment for community colleges and they divide it up and you get your share based on what your share is, not how many students you teach. So what happened to us during the budget crunch is we were actually trying to qualify for as many units of funding as we could. and we over-enrolled. And then when the budget started to get cut, we still had 10 or 11,000 students, but we were arbitrarily getting our numbers reduced to fund only 8,000 or 9,000 from the state. So that 2,000 student differential is what was causing our deficit. We had more students enrolled than what we were getting funded for.
Okay, second question. This idea that the state would go, Brown would like to see the junior colleges do adult education. And it seems like you're saying that next year would probably be the first year with this grant money, about 450,000?
250,000 next year to do the planning. So there wouldn't be any changes for next year. And the governor didn't say that he wanted community colleges to do adult education. I think what the proposal in the consortium is to make sure that if we're doing adult education and we're teaching in the community college, that we're not repeating ourselves. We're not doing the same thing in two different places.
And a lot of schools have already closed and they're not doing anything.
Right.
They're opening anymore.
Right.
So what happens?
They're still part of our consortium now. So I think that's one of the things that we have to look at is how can adult education be delivered to those communities? First of all, what's adult ed going to do? What's their primary role and responsibility? And I'll give you an example. They do adult basic education. They do ESL. They do GED training. Those are all things that adult schools are built for. Community college is not good at that. And so if adult school decides those are the primary things we're going to do, and maybe some of the adult schools, I'll give you an example. The Visalia Adult School tries to maintain some levels of career technical education, auto body shop, auto repair. They're not as good at that as the community college is. So maybe they should, if we agree we'll do this and you agree you'll do that, and we don't duplicate each other, we're going to end up with pretty good enrollment in both, but we're going to be able to concentrate on the things that we do best. So that's our hope, at least the initial discussion.
Quick question. Would a joint use pool help you, Senator?
Let's think about that. We might want to think about that.
Just saying, I'm slowly class.
Yeah.
Did you want to vote on that?
Oh, yeah. We'll take a vote.
Do we have any other questions?
What type of communications and assessments do we have showing that students transferring from COS to universities?
There's two things. What we'll be bringing to the high school board to show them is a data set that we collect. And we track all first year freshmen, how many come in. We track what we call their retention rate. That's their fall to fall enrollment. And the reason we use these is because these line up with the State Chancellor's Office scorecard. If you go to the State Chancellor's Office for Community College website and you click on Community College Scorecard, you'll see a scorecard for every community college in the state. And one of the things that we all have to do is we have to track, first of all, they give you the demographic profile of our area. And then we have to track what's called retention rate. And that's how many students start in one fall, finish the year, and enrolled for their second year in the next fall. We track that. We also track, the research shows that students who complete 30 units are 78% more likely to graduate or finish their 2-year program. So we have an all-out push now to try and increase the number of our students that complete their first 30 units. You'll see that statistic. And then you'll see one on the completion of degrees. You'll see one on the completion of certificates. And so those metrics are the ones that we're aligning to and trying to mobilize our resources to achieve.
Perfect. That's what I was doing. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll turn it over to Sullivan. Dr. Sullivan, sorry.
Kristen.
I don't know,
Kristen. As I'm sitting here tonight, I'm thinking back to about this time of year in 2006, when the board decided that we were going for a SFIB, for a bond. And many of the faces around the table were there to help us in several ways, and that started in January or February, and then we passed a bond in November in 2006, and then opened this facility in fall of 2010. And as we were waiting for dinner tonight, one of the students came by and said, I just want to tell, I don't know how many of you were around, I just want to tell this group, thank you for the work you did on accreditation. And that's what's in the front of their mind is accreditation, because a facility here for them every day is a constant. And so, and that's because of this group. And so before I start, I wanted to say thank you for all of your help and having that be. There we go. So a little bit about where we are at the Hanford Center. This is what our demographics look like. We're pretty consistent from fall to spring, about 55% Hispanic, roughly 28% Caucasian, and the 17% is made up in our fall, right around 4% or under for each of the other ethnic areas. Also, trends. We talked a little bit tonight about how we're funded, and because community colleges are capped, you know, I came to you about a year ago and we had a few more students. So you look at the numbers and you say, gosh, we're down in students, but we're up in FTES. And so what that tells me is we're being more efficient. Rather than having a student take a math class here and going to Visalia for an English class, or looking at our single section offerings and overlapping them by 10 minutes so that it blocks a student out, we've looked at block scheduling over the last year. So we have a few less students, but our FTES about what we're funded on and what we're capped at is increased. Does that make sense? So we're serving our Hanford students more efficiently by scheduling correctly.
So fewer students are taking more classes.
More
Right.
at this campus.
We have
right.
fewer students, but more of them, John, are able to get their full schedules here.
And that does a lot of things from a student body standpoint because it builds more community, it has more ability for activities, they know the staff, they know the faculty, and it just builds a different sense than we had 4 years ago when we had 1,600 or 1,700 students with fewer FTES. They were taking one class here and then going to Visalia or you know, a lot of different parts of that. So that we feel really good about in terms of what we're doing in terms of scheduling. Like President Carrizosa talked about, we have increased our services. The librarian hours, that is something that's huge. Our library is open 8 to 8 every day, but we haven't always had a body to staff to help with reference questions, to help with textbook checkouts. The folks at the hub tried to cover as much as we could, but we got to the point where our students were here more, so they're not sharing campuses, and they needed those services. And we needed to provide them. So we have librarian hours Monday through Thursday, almost both day and evening hours. We've also, in the last 6 months, instituted a couple things. There's like Ask the Librarian, which they can go online. It goes directly to the reference desk in Visalia, and that is answered from 8 to 8. Also, there's a phone in the, if you've ever paid your gas bill, there's a phone in the library now, you pick it up and it brings directly to the same technology as at the gas company. So we feel good about that. Also, our student information and counseling, we've added evening hours. We hope to increase those more this spring in terms of getting students ready for registration for our incoming freshmen. We're also going to have more evening hours, and then district-wide, we're also providing Saturday hours, which will help students. On our Hanford website, we have a live chat feature, which is operating all times that we're open. That goes directly to the hub, and whoever's there can answer a question. And then also the Ask COS, which is a district-wide service that we have provided. If you go online now, you can ask it in this box any question, and through intelligent software, it gives you the answer, and then it also keeps track of the top 10 questions. Then we on the back end look at that and can adjust our questions. If we have something that's not hit very well, we go back and that has been, the service has been phenomenal for our students because they can get access at any time of the day or night, and you watch those trend lines. And when do students ask questions? 11:30, 12 at night when there are not services open. So, like we talked about that, we have transfer courses, all the nursing prerequisites with the exception of microbiology, public and fire, electrical, and then new, like we mentioned, for industrial maintenance. And I want to show you a little bit about what this means to our students.
Hi, my name is Raul Rios. I'm currently enrolled in the iTech 101 program in Hanford. I chose this program because of my love for anything mechanical. I chose the Hanford area because it was close to home. My future goals are to get hired in one of the close factories or dairies. Seems like a more logical thing.
Hello, my name is Sergio Garcia. I live here in Hanford, and I've been in the industrial industry for over 15 years, and I always wanted to get into industrial maintenance. So it was nearby, easy for me to come here. Mario's a great teacher. He helps us out quite a bit.
How's it going? My name is Stuart Carrion. I'm in the industrial mechanics program. I drive from Lemoore here. It's really convenient. My goal is to work in the industry and troubleshoot. I'm learning all that here.
My name is Johnny, and I chose this program to have a career in maintenance and for job security in the future. And I live with my son in an industrial area, so I'm looking for get a job somewhere in there.
My name's Gary. I chose this program because of the valley with all the factories and the food here. Seems like a promising career, and I hope to get involved with a good reputable company and finish out my next 20 years in the labor force.
So that shows a little bit about what our program, our new program does, and we're excited to have a full-time faculty member administering that project. That's a tight-knit group that pays very well. Those students get paid very well once they complete the program. Like has already been mentioned, we are doing high school visits to students and trying to get them ready for their upcoming year. Also, the president and vice presidents have been visiting the high school. We've increased the marketing. And then also looking at STEPS, which is our freshman program to get students enrolled. That's coming on April 24th, 25th, and 26th. So if you know of high school students who are interested in going through that process and they need to do some things, go on, fill out an application, and we've been trying to work with them at the high schools to get them through that process. So with that, are there any questions? Oh, you know what, sorry. I guess I should look at my notes. We will begin looking for letters of support again. Many of you wrote letters of support a year or 2 years ago. Unfortunately, that's something we're going to need because we were kind of hit the pause button when we were on show pause. We're going to need to print more letters, and so if you can help us with that, that would be great. And we're also looking at ways to continue to increase capacity, whether that's services, outreach. If you can think of things that we should be doing that maybe we are not doing, please let us know. We're here always looking for better ways to serve the community. So with that, are there any questions?
The high school district wants us to do swim classes.
We'll get you guys in a week, we'll go buy me a fire truck. That's right.
For the letters of support, would you want some Senate to have?
That would be great.
Okay.
Absolutely. Can you handle that for us? All right.
And what change have you seen on your Visalia campus with having different campuses in two that are in Hampshire?
It's actually been, there's always an adjustment, Gary, and I think that was probably some of the angst in the beginning. If you were a part of that Visalia campus for generations, you didn't really envision the services being dispersed. And so we've just had to go through that kind of growing pain and that adjustment. I think the thing that people feared the most was that there may be involuntary actions, transfers, programs broken apart and moved. And we didn't do a lot of that in the beginning. What we really tried to do was get cooperation and buy-in from people. And I think for a large part, we were able to do that. There were some decisions that had to be made that were in the best interest of students, and we made them. And I think there are some services now, industrial maintenance, for example, that's fully operational here in Hanford. It was just an administrative decision to follow through on a commitment we made to the region and to use that facility. And the staff has made really positive adjustments. So it's always a growing pain, but in the end, I think everybody clearly understands now we are a 3-campus college. And so that's finally, that culture is part of COS 2.0.
Lori?
Yes.
I'll follow up on that a little bit, Gary. Is another source that I didn't expect at least is some of the faculty that teach here like it here. And
They all like it here.
And they have become a voice within the faculty circles about what we're doing over here or in Tulare. And now, because of the communication amongst faculty in 3 different places, within the divisions, they start looking at it as a three-team setup. Now, there's always somebody, but the people that make the college work, I'm amazed. There was one of the things you have to do with this 2.0 is the divisions are expected to report to the board periodically on their self-evaluation. And one of the issues was recommendation number 13 is that we need to have a full-time tenured track person in English or language arts at both Hanford and Tulare. And they're keeping the faculty off from the top down. So that's just how it's working.
Very good. Thank you.
Chris, there is one question. One of the commissions I sit on is CART. And I know there was an issue of times getting students here. A student take one class and then has to wait all day. Is that still an issue, or are we still working on it?
We need to work on that a little bit more. And part of that is, I mean, just, if we can get the bus stop, that's huge. And if we can get some schedules, we can have that early schedule just a little bit earlier.
Okay, so that's still an issue.
We need to work on that, Russ. Any help that you can provide us or any input that Kristen can provide you, I think would be really good. I'll give you an example for comparison. When we do the same thing over in the Tulare campus, we're able to get the drop-offs, if we needed to, as frequently as every 30 minutes. And so I know it's a more concentrated area, but if we could have that be a little more consistent here, it would be really good for our Hanford students. So your help there would be great.
Any other questions, Mr. Powell?
Based on current funding from the governor's budget, as long as enrollment is efficient, fewer FTEs or fewer students, more FTEs, is COS in a position, are you out, in more enrollment's good under the current funding model?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Is the opportunity for us to compete with our neighbors to the west.
Yeah.
Love that opportunity, and I think now if we're in a position where it's game on, then.
Yeah, it's game on.
2.0.
That's why we're coming to Bill's district every month.
Do you want to talk a little bit about the foundation and the luncheon for?
Yeah, that would be great, Bill. Thank you. We have, actually, is Tim still here? Okay, our new director of foundation, Tim Foster, has initiated a really neat feature for us. And he asked if the Hanford High School District would be willing to allow College of the Sequoias to host an event for graduating seniors here from the Hanford Joint Union High School District. And it's a model that he's worked, in his former life, he was the director of the YMCA in Visalia. I was the superintendent in Visalia, so together we did this for the Visalia high schools. And he came out and he asked Bill, would you be willing to allow the College of the Sequoias Foundation to host an event in the late spring each year for all the graduating seniors from any Hanford high school who are what we call CSF lifetime members. CSF is the California Scholastic Federation, and it's students who have maintained high GPAs, and they're getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. Some of them get a gold cord when they graduate. Well, we're going to take all those students and host a celebratory luncheon for them. And the beautiful thing about it is we get Jostens to buy in as a partner. They take those students' photos and they do a big, huge wall poster with every single student's picture on it. Every kid gets one of those posters. We treat them to lunch. We provide them with a guest speaker, and we invite their parents. So the parents come, they're excited, they get to celebrate their kids. And these kids all get up on stage and they get their 30 seconds of fame. They do little cards with a partner. I introduce Lori and she introduces me, and I tell everybody where she's going to college and she says where I'm going to college, and they go right down the row. And we honor every single student. It takes about an hour and 15 minutes to do the luncheon. But what we wanted is we wanted to be contributing to the academic achievement of top seniors in our communities, and that's the way that College of the Sequoias Foundation is going to honor our kids in Hanford. So that'll be a nice event, and that's, like I said, game on.
One last question. Do you have a nursing program at the Visalia campus?
Yes, we do.
Any other campus? You also have a Tulare campus, don't you?
We do.
You have it there?
Not the nursing program, but we do have a Tulare campus.
And you have a waiting list on it?
Waiting list in the nursing program.
What's the possibility of expanding that or even doing anything like it?
It's really difficult, and I'll tell you why right now. Remember, the original vision of the 3-campus college was to have 3 different campuses, and each campus was going to have the transfer education, which are the courses to go on to 4-year college. So everybody has the educational components, and then each campus was going to have their own signature career or vocational certification program. And what we did when we designated the Hanford Center, the Hanford Educational Center, is we brought law enforcement and fire safety over as the signature program here. Allied Health and Nursing remains the signature program in Visalia, and then agriculture and architecture are the programs in Tulare. So what will happen, I think, is it's not likely that the signature programs will expand, just like we wouldn't put Police Academy in Visalia. We probably won't move the full-blown nursing academy to Hanford. And the other thing is about expanding the nursing program right now. We have to keep it contained within the number of nursing graduates that we can provide the market. And the job market for nursing has dropped off significantly. So we're still graduating about 50 to 60 nurses every cohort, but we're only getting about a 25% job placement rate out of those 60 graduates. So we don't want to certify 200 of them to only get 25 of them a job. So we're reading the trend data on that to make sure that we don't over-invest in one area.
Any other questions? Any other comments? Board members, council members?
Real quick,
Sure.
I forgot to mention this earlier, and I don't want to let the night go by without it. In case you didn't know, I mean, we have one of the best College of the Sequoias student board representatives that I've ever been associated with. And I've been on boards for a long time, and I've been superintendent for a long time. And Diane Garcia serves in our student senate. She holds an official office there, but also serves as our representative to the board. She attends every meeting. She comes to our annual retreat and spends 6 hours with us there on a Friday when she doesn't have a class. And the thing that you're going to be most proud of is she is a Hanford graduate. This is one of the few nights that she'll get home before me.
And me.
So we're really proud of Hanford and Diana.
Questions, comments? Anybody in the back here? You guys are all so quiet. We don't get them to be this quiet at our meetings, just so everybody knows. Well, it's clear to see that the topics we covered, the agenda sure seems short, but in essence, we covered a whole lot of good reasons why we need to continue to meet and partner and just stay abreast of what's going on. So I thank all of you for being here. Thank you for taking the time. I know everybody here has lots of meetings and other obligations, and all of you made an effort. So we appreciate it on behalf of the COS board and hope to see you again next year. Meeting adjourned.